Today on Mi Rollo, we have the Spitfires. Billy, you're back with MKII, your first new material since 2022, produced by Simon Dine with a refreshed lineup delivering catchy, danceable ska and madness-influenced pop while staying true to the sense of classic British music. It's a pleasure to have you in Mi Rollo, Billy.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
You're back with a new single, a new lineup, and an album that feels like a turning point. What does MK2 represent for you and the band?
It represents the start of a new chapter, really. It's not a continuation of what the band had done before, and it marks, yeah, the start of something else. It's a good starting point as well, I think, to move and to develop and to, create lots more new music.
I'll Never, your last single, has made quite an impact, both sonically and lyrically. How did this track come about?
Um, I think it was one of the first tracks I wrote for the album,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure really. I think that I had the chorus first, which I thought was very catchy, and yeah, I suppose the track was just born out of this idea of sort of self-medicating to help deal with sort of mental health issues, really, and how instead of talking about it, that that people maybe reach for other means to sort of mask it, but it never really goes away. And I thought it was just a good subject to write about because I think not enough people talk about it. And it's got a sort of evil and twisted sort of feel and sound to the song, which I love because I think it sort of comes from a darker place. But yeah, I'm really happy with the song.
And the video for I'll Never, no, was directed by Lawrence Watson. What were
Yeah.
you aiming to convey visually with it?
I just wanted to show the energy and I suppose I for lack of better words, I'd say the scattiness of the song. The way someone's thinking if they're not in a good place and how things change suddenly and sort of chopped together. And I think Lawrence portrayed it perfectly with the video.
And you've explored the stigma around mental health, especially for men. Do you see the record as a way to start conversations that are often difficult but essential?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think there's the song's gonna change anything like that. But it just might make people think a little bit, or maybe be able to identify with what I'm talking about, and either give someone comfort in that position, or maybe make them think about it a little bit differently. I'm not sure. You know.
MK2 now explores another themes like inequality, addiction, love, and anti-war sentiment, all woven into that unmistakably British blend of ska, punk, and mod energy. Which of these felt the most personal or urgent for you to write about on this record?
I've so I like to write about things that people can relate to and sort of everyday life, and I always think that you know everyday life can be quite hard for some people. It's not easy, and it's not,
Mm.
there's far too many songs about how everything sort of works out okay in the end, but for a lot of people it doesn't, and they just have to keep struggling on, which is what I tend to look at writing about. And as I said, it's very important that that I want people to relate to what I'm writing about because it's not, there's a little bit of me in there, but it's mostly about people I know or situations that other people have been in or the environments that me and my friends all grew up in or are living in. And my favorite music and the music that influenced me, um, I related to and I was able to take something from. So I think I like you know to have that element of realism in our music.
Musically, no, MK2 marks a clear shift. No, what was the process behind that evolution?
I think it was just the fact that there was a new band and it had a sort of new energy to it. And I think it's just growing up really as well and learning how to write and approaching things differently. And, listening to different music as well, listening to all sorts of things that, you know, might influence you in a sort of small way, but develop something into or develop a sound into something else. Um, so I just see it as sort of it's like I suppose this the Spitfires grown up record, I'd say.
Hmm. And how has the new lineup influenced this refreshed sound?
It's just, there's a lot of energy about it and a lot of positivity. And music can get quite jaded after a while because you've been there, you've done that, you expect the worst. You can be quite cynical about it. Whereas, with the new lineup, it doesn't feel like that. It feels exciting and fresh, and everyone's just looking forward to whatever we're doing, and is excited about the songs and the album, and the live shows. So it really gives you that sort of feeling of confidence going into a new thing.
Let's go to the theme Where Did We Go Wrong? Explores regret and resilience after a relationship ends. When you wrote it, were you reflecting more on personal experience, broader human emotions, or both? And what does revisiting those moments teach you about yourself and life?
Well, I suppose that song in particular wasn't about me, but it was about someone I knew, and it was about basically being scared of commitment to the point where it would ruin opportunities for them. And I just find it interesting to write about these sort of things because I think that, you know, they can relate to a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, it's not the deepest song in the world. It's not the most, it hasn't got the most poetic lyrics really, but it's got a sort of realism to it. And yeah, I'm quite happy with that song.
Given the current gap in the market for ska and mod bands, how do you see the Spitfires' role in keeping the genre alive and relevant today?
Um, I think I think that the Spitfires are quite important in keeping that sort of, I call it sort of traditionalism really in with this sort of music where it's not, we're not social media wizards and we're not influencers and but what we do like is that sort of music. With being English, we're quite proud that that sort of music has come from our country. And I suppose that, yeah, again, I think people can relate to us, and people that are into that sort of thing can see our influences and see our references, but also see that we're taking it on to new places with a sort of modern twist. And I think that'll probably, you know, excite people because I don't think there's been a band that have taken that to a new place for a long, long time now. Most of it's sort of retro and nostalgic and looking backwards, whereas the Spitfires is very much moving forwards.
The album's artwork references Barney Bubbles and
Yeah.
features your own photos from
Yeah,
Berlin. How important was the visual side of MK2 for you?
very important. I think the visual side of any album should be
Yeah.
really important. It needs to reflect what the album sounds like, what the images it conjures up in your head when you're listening to it. And you know, I liked the idea of it sort of being a collage of different things and sort of being quite dark and quite urban, but with sort of splashes of colour. Because I feel like that's what the album sort of sounds like. It's quite dark and urban, but there's sort of splashes of colour and splashes of hope in there still. And I think it suits the record perfectly.
And would you say the Great Divide carries more of a warning or rather a message of hope and unity?
Yeah, the Great Divide is about the class system that's very much ignored in England now. It's very much pretended like it doesn't exist, but of course it does. And but there's the divide between the rich and the poor just gets wider and wider. And if you're born into a certain class or situation or environment, you're expected to go one route in life and sort of be grateful for it. Whereas if you're born into another side of it, then the opportunities are there for you suddenly, and financial gains are there for you suddenly. And it was just to highlight that really that you were born, just because you're born into something doesn't mean that you have any more right than anyone else. And you should be given equal opportunities, I think. Um, so it's born out of the frustration of that.
And after selling out the Coco in Camden and completing a European tour, does touring still feel the same buzz it used to, or has it changed for you over the years?
Um, It's changed, I think. A lot of live music changed very much after COVID and after lockdown and people's sort of attitudes towards it. I mean, one negative is that we find is that people buy tickets for shows now, but don't necessarily turn up and don't think sort of twice about it. Whereas beforehand, if someone bought a ticket, they'd go or they'd sell their ticket. Now people will just swallow it and earn money but still not go. So, you see that attendances have dropped since then.
Hmm.
But overall, the gigs are far more enjoyable and the band are far better. And, you know, I've, I think for a Spitfires fan, I think from now on, seeing the best gigs they have done up until this point.
And you had to cancel, no, the upcoming UK dates this month.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
But you're confirmed for the Purple Weekend in León, no, at the
yes.
beginning of December. No? What's your relationship with Spanish audiences? And how do you feel about bringing MK2 to them live?
Well, I think Spain was actually the first place abroad that the band played over 10
Mm.
years ago. And, we've been back and forth there quite a few times over the years. And it's always been a fantastic crowd, very passionate crowds. And, I'm really looking forward to
Mm.
returning and having this new album out and progressing that even further in the future and hopefully coming over and doing the Spanish tour at some point next year I think would be the plan, which yeah, I'm very excited about.
And what can fans expect from this MK2 tour? Any surprises or new sounds live?
I think they can just expect to hear the songs from the album in a live setting, but you know, really pushed by really good musicians into, a really good live spectacle. And they'll hear a few old favourites as well. But again, it's all about looking forward for us. We don't want to dwell too much on what the band have done in the past. We want to showcase what we're doing now and maybe even showcase what we're going to do in the future. Who knows? We might add a new song or two in the next couple of months. As I'm already working on material, but we'll see.
What do you like most about touring and what do you like less?
I love touring, so I love going to different places. I love playing. I love driving around in the back of the van, hotel, everything to do with touring. I enjoy, and I think what do I like less about it? It's harder in the UK because you seem to get treated really badly by
Mm.
promoters, um, and sometimes venue managers and venue staff aren't the the happiest people either. So I suppose, yeah, there's nothing worse than turning up somewhere and feeling like you're a nuisance for playing that night. But you don't get that. You don't get that abroad. Especially don't get that in Spain. You're treated very well, and everyone seems to appreciate that you made the effort to go over there and play, and they all, want to have a good time and seem really up for it. So that would be the downfall, but that's only for the UK. Everywhere else is, I can't really complain about anything anywhere else.
Mm. And after everything you've been through as a band, the breakup, the rebuilding, and now this new chapter, What have you learned about yourself, not just as musicians, but as people?
Um, to not compromise, I think. I made too many compromises last time, and I listened to too many people's opinions that, you know, weren't worth listening to, or I don't respect enough to take their opinion. Whereas this time, I've built a really good team around the band, and we have people that, are really supporting us and really understand us and really like what we're doing. And I think that's a really important thing to have because you can't do everything on your own. But it feels like, we built a little sort of, I don't know, little gang around us, and we're all ready to take on the rest of the world. And yeah, that's what I've learned more than anything is to make sure I'm surrounded by good people.
It was really nice to having you here, and
It's really nice, really nice. So thank you very much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
you're welcome. And I hope to see you here in Spain, in any, I don't know, maybe Barcelona, maybe Madrid, wherever.
Definitely, definitely.
Definitely.